Still, how many to do? Okay. All right, so we are going to read Srila Prabhupada, lilamrita. As usual. TK? Your English is okay? मेरे हिंदी बहुत खराब है. मैं समझता हूँ. Generally. But it's not good. Okay, let's see. We're in Prabhupada Lilamrita, Volume 4, Chapter 32. Hare Krishna. Pushpa Devi. So let me just try and see where we are. Oh, yeah, okay. Amritsar, we've been to Amritsar. And now we're coming back. We're in Bombay. All right. So we're in Bombay, and what is it, November or December 1970. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadeshatarne Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripas sindhubhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Okay. The public sensation of Prabhupada's disciples chanting in the streets of Bombay and at the Sadhu Samaj had died down. The regular news coverage had stopped. Still, Prabhupada was sought after by many important people in Bombay. His accomplishments after 5 years in America commanded the esteem and attention of intelligent Indians, and daily he received respectable visitors who accepted him as the authority on Krishna consciousness. The Indians regarded Prabhupada as unique, even in a culture where swamis and holy men are commonly treated with respect. He was regarded as special. His visitors would beg him to come to their homes and sanctify them. And this was also in line with Prabhupada's desire. He wanted to engage the Indians in chanting Hare Krishna, hearing the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, and honoring the Lord's prasadam. He wanted them to appreciate the purity of the Krishna consciousness movement, enlist as life members of ISKCON, and help him establish a large center in Bombay. In preaching to Indians, Prabhupada would often urge them to return to their all but forgotten spiritual culture. Our culture is Krishna consciousness, he said before a group of Bombay citizens, but we are forgetting and becoming too materially absorbed. Lord Rishabhadev says that this is not good, because according to the law of karma, you will have to take another body. But you don't have to give up. But you don't have to give up your hard struggle for material life. Arjuna was not advised to do this. He remained in his position and executed Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada concluded, I am begging. I have 42 temples in the West, and in each one there are 50 to 100 disciples. Thousands of books have to be printed. Please help me with this movement. Manohar Lal Agarwal, Prabhupada's host at Ram Sharanam, would often sit with him for hours, inquiring about spiritual life. Mr. Agarwal was particularly interested in hearing of Prabhupada's work in America. How had he transformed so many Christians into Ram Bhaktas? Well, I think what Mr. Agarwal doesn't understand is that they're not so much Christians. They're sort of something, but they're not like Christians by any means. Free thinkers. I mean, particularly the hippies. Gee whiz. They were far from being Christians. Had he been alone, or had there been helpers? How did he dress in America? What was his approach? Prabhupada recounted his early preaching on the Lower East Side of New York, and he explained how everything had happened by Krishna's desire. I could just mention something, just in principle here. Yeah, I don't know if I've really mentioned it over the past weeks or months as we've been reading lilamrita, but it's really important to come closer to Prabhupada, to develop a relationship from the heart with Prabhupada. And to do that, it's not just a sentiment like, an emotional thing, Prabhupada. But one has to understand Prabhupada. I mean, of course, at the same time, as Caitanya Charitamrita says, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigyeha Nabujaya. You can't really understand a great pure devotee. I mean, like, understand completely. But you can definitely understand to some nice degree and appreciate the qualities, the service, the consciousness, the mood, like this. You can definitely get some real insight. And this is very important for all of us. Yeah. Otherwise, if we don't understand Prabhupada, the person, the devotee, and how he lived as a devotee, how he conducted himself, what he went through, what he did, how he dealt with different situations and people and like that, then Prabhupada will remain like some distant authority figure that we just, we know we're meant to do what he says. But there's a shortage of real insight into him, into his heart, and into his personality and his Krishna consciousness. So these books, all of them, like that other one, Giriraj Maharaj's book, what is it? Let Me Build a Temple. What is it? I'll build you a temple, right. I read that. What an amazing book. What insights into Prabhupada. It's just amazing. And this also is just amazing. And so it's to read the biographies and in this way appreciate Prabhupada in these different ways, as I mentioned. It's just a really important part of our development in Krishna consciousness. You know, there are many different parts to our development in Krishna consciousness, but this is definitely one very important one. And even, you know, I had association, I mean, a little personal association, but quite a bit of, you know, being in classes. I went on walks with Prabhupada a few times and, you know, things like that. But still, as I'm reading this, honestly, it's just like, wow, it's amazing. Every page, really, it's like that. Even though I've read the book before. I just thought I'd throw that in. So, Mr. Agarwal doubted whether Westerners would be able to stay with Krishna consciousness for very long. Well, I don't know. I'm a Westerner. I'm a sort of full-blown Westerner, you know, a white man. I've been through it, my Lord. Anyway, I'm still here, at least put it that way. Maybe it's just the prasadam, but one way or the other, I'm still here. So he continues, now in the radiance of your company, he said, as long as you are here bodily and physically, they may continue to observe all these restrictions. But when your physical influence will not be there, one day when you will have to leave this world, then all these people that have come in contact with you, will they go bad? No, Prabhupada said firmly. Your claim is very tall. That's an interesting way of putting it, replied Mr. Agarwal. Can you tell me, what is the basic foundation of your claim? And this is actually a very interesting point. Prabhupada reminded him that all his disciples had been initiated into the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, and that according to the Vedic scriptures, the constant chanting of the Lord's holy name will save even the most fallen souls and protect them from falling again. Even after his passing away, Prabhupada predicted, his disciples would not fall victim to Maya as long as they continued their prescribed chanting. You know, the fact is just historically that many of the disciples have, you know, those who have actually just like fallen away and just gone is just a relatively small number. Those who have kind of drifted somewhat, you know, they're not following us seriously as they were at this time. You know, there's quite some number of them, but it's amazing. You know, so many of them are still deeply attached to Prabhupada and engaged in Krishna consciousness to one degree or another. One day, one day Mr. Agarwal asked how long Prabhupada and his disciples were planning to stay. Prabhupada said that he was very happy staying where he was, but would try to find a new place immediately, because he can obviously understand what's going on behind the question. So, Mr. Agarwal insisted that he had no intention of asking Prabhupada to leave. His home belonged to Prabhupada, not to himself. He begged him to kindly continue to stay. Prabhupada said this reminded him of an incident from the Caitanya Charitamrita, and he told a story about Haridas Thakur, the great devotee of Lord Caitanya. Haridas Thakur used to live alone in a cave where he chanted Hare Krishna day and night. Many pilgrims would visit him, but when they learned that a python was also living within the cave, they became afraid. Although Haridas Thakur was satisfied with his cave, he didn't want to inconvenience his visitors, so he said he would leave the cave that very day and not return again. Yet, even as he spoke, the huge python came winding out from the back of the cave into the presence of all. Passing near Haridas Thakur, the snake bowed his head to the ground and slithered away. The supersoul within the heart of the python had impelled him to leave the cave so that Haridas Thakur could remain. Prabhupada laughed as he told the story. Agarwalji, he said, you have said the same thing. You have said that you will go away and that we will stay. But no, we will go. We will go. Okay, so that's the end of that chapter. Now chapter 33. There are 55 chapters. This is now chapter 33. A lot of ground to be covered. Indore, December the 3rd, 1970. India continued to be like a dream for Prabhupada's disciples, who gazed out the windows as the train moved them through India's unfamiliar rural world. The trackside bushes blossomed in yellow. Mile after mile of irrigated agricultural fields passed by. Wheat, rice, sugarcane, and varieties of dal. Small villages, mud-walled houses with straw roofs, or thatched walls with tile roofs, drifted peacefully by. An occasional village temple made of stone would rise above the surrounding simple structures. Cowherd boys with sticks tended their herds on the grassy banks of meandering streams, and the grazing cows, the oxen ploughing in the ancient fields, the dung patties drying in the sun for fuel, the smoke rising from the cooking fires, and the smell of the warm earth, all were part of a peaceful, simple way of life the devotees were coming to appreciate through Prabhupada's association. Prabhupada and his disciples were en route to Indore, a city of 475,000 in the central Indian province of Madhya Pradesh, 13 hours northeast of Bombay. That's close to Ujjain, isn't it? That's where the airport is. Right. The directors of the Gita Jayanti Mahotsava, a festival to celebrate the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, had invited Prabhupada and his disciples to attend their convention and public meeting. Incidentally, devotees, we didn't introduce Anukul Krishna to you all, did we? That's terrible. Anyway, this is Anukul Krishna Prabhu. And these are all the devotees, some of the devotees. All very good devotees. Okay. In Indore, Srila Prabhupada and his disciples settled into their quarters near the Gita Bhavan, the site of the Gita Jayanti Mahotsava. The directors of the convention had assigned Prabhupada a bungalow with a lawn and garden, and had provided nearby facilities for his disciples. The devotees toured the grounds of the Gita Bhavan, noting that many swamis and sadhus who had arrived from various parts of India, noting the many swamis and sadhus had arrived from various parts of India for the Mahotsava. They saw the large pandal and stage, the eye hospital run by the Gita Bhavan, and the diorama exhibit. The diorama exhibit they regarded as the kind of eclectic mixing of spiritual paths that Prabhupada often referred to as hodgepodge. That term came from Prabhupada, hodgepodge. Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, and demigods and animals were all on display. While admiring the energy and imagination that had produced such an exhibit, the devotees questioned the benefit of such a conglomeration. On the first night of the festival, Prabhupada was scheduled as the last speaker. His disciples who sat with him on stage grew bored and restless from the ordeal of so many hours of Hindi speeches. And knowing that these speakers were presenting Mayavad misconceptions made the evening especially painful. Srila Prabhupada sat sternly and waited, his hand in his bead bag, his head held high, his lips murmuring the Hare Krishna mantra. When Prabhupada finally spoke, he began by explaining that in the West he was spreading the teachings of the Gita as it is. Bhagavad Gita, he said, could be properly understood only in disciplic succession, just as Arjuna, the original student of the Bhagavad Gita, had understood it. The Gita was for the devotee of Krishna and should not be misinterpreted by non-devotees. To misinterpret the Gita, he said, was to cheat in the name of religion. He also spoke strongly against pseudo-incarnations. Prabhupada concluded his talk and asked his disciples to begin kirtan. It was an ecstatic, spontaneous event, and Prabhupada began dancing on stage along with his disciples. The crowd came to life and began clapping rhythmically. Hansadutta jumped down from the stage, still playing mridanga, and began inducing members of the audience to join in chanting and dancing. Several other devotees also jumped down, and soon hundreds of people had risen to their feet, swaying, clapping, and singing, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This was the real Gita Jayanti Mahotsava. The holy name of Krishna was being sung, and everyone was happily united in the kirtan. Greatly pleased by the performance of Prabhupada and his disciples, the Pandal directors visited Prabhupada the next day in his bungalow. Prabhupada complained at having to wait so long before he could speak. His disciples shouldn't be required to sit through hours of speeches in a language they couldn't understand. When Prabhupada intimated that the speeches seriously deviated from the teachings of the Gita, the director of the Gita Bhavan replied, "We do not favor any particular way. Followers of the Shankara school and others also come to our institution. We do not subscribe wholly that Sri Krishna is the sole God or anything of the sort. There is a power behind him. Oh, Krishna." This remark drew fire from Srila Prabhupada. What kind of glorification of the Gita was this if the speakers did not accept Krishna as he is explained in the Gita? The Gita declares Krishna to be the highest truth. Mata parataram nanyat. Prabhupada advised the directors of the Gita Bhavan to try to understand the meaning of Bhagavad Gita. The directors did not change their opinion, but they were intelligent enough to see that Prabhupada was a great Pandit and saint, and they listened respectfully. Nodding, they said they accepted his point of view. After the men left, Prabhupada continued, "They're thinking that there's something beyond Krishna, or that it is the spirit within Krishna that we have to surrender to. But they do not know that the within and the without of Krishna are all absolute, eternal, and full of bliss." Prabhupada said he could see that the organizers of the Gita Jayanti Mahotsava had invited him to draw larger crowds. But they would not make him sit again through all the Mayavadi nonsense, he said. From now on, he would go with his disciples, speak, chant, and then leave. The next night, however, despite promises by the Pandal directors, Srila Prabhupada again had to wait until the end of the program before he could speak and hold kirtan. This night the crowd was larger than before, and they were clearly waiting for Srila Prabhupada and the foreign sadhus. When Prabhupada's turn came at last, he spoke and then asked his disciples to begin kirtan. During the kirtan, one of the members of the Gita Bhavan gestured to the devotees to jump down into the crowd as they had done on the preceding night. But what had been a spontaneous event the night before could not be artificially staged simply as a crowd pleaser. The man, however, was insistent. He came forward to the edge of the stage, reached up, and began grabbing at the feet of the dancing devotees, trying to pull them into the audience. Oh, Krishna. The devotees became annoyed. Grabbing indiscriminately, the man pulled at one of the women's saris. Srila Prabhupada was also dancing. But when he saw this, he rushed to the end of the stage, swinging his kartals towards the man's face and shouting, "Stop this!" The man retreated. And Prabhupada and his disciples continued their kirtan. Although little noticed by the crowd, Prabhupada's burst of lion-like ferocity had amazed his disciples. The festival directors were once again pleased with Prabhupada's lecture in kirtan, but Prabhupada sent them word that he would not again sit through the other lectures waiting his turn to speak. He had wearied of hearing opinions on Bhagavad Gita that avoided the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, surrender to Sri Krishna, the absolute truth. Some speakers made the Gita an allegory. Some said Krishna was not an actual historical personality, and some simply took advantage of the Gita's popularity to put forward their own political or social philosophies. A person with his own philosophy should write his own book, Prabhupada said. Not use as a vehicle for his own ideas, the Bhagavad Gita, a scripture worshipped by millions and respected throughout the world. Why should a conference under the name Gita Jayanti become a forum for speculative philosophies? Bhagavad Gita states that the Gita itself is the essence of knowledge, meant to benefit the entire world. To misrepresent the Gita, therefore, was the greatest disservice. Prabhupada felt that by sitting through such a program, he and his disciples were tacitly approving the blasphemous speeches. On the third night of the festival, Prabhupada and his disciples came early to the stage, having been promised by the festival directors that they would be first on the program. But when another speaker stood and began his discourse, Prabhupada, followed by his disciples, stood and walked off the stage. The festival director was quite disturbed by this, since most of the audience had come especially for the kirtan. He pleaded with Prabhupada to return, but Prabhupada refused. He did agree, however, to send his disciples every night. They would speak and hold kirtan. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comment or question from you intelligent devotees? Any comment, Prabhu? Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare